At 80, the deep-voiced cowboy still works non-stop. He never slowed down. His career only peaked after age 70, winning his first major award at 78. But behind that success hides pain. His father died believing he would fail. His daughter violently attacked his wife. His home life shattered. Despite fixing his family years later, he carries these scars. The man who played tough guys on screen faced his toughest battles at home, where no script could save him. Sam Elliott was born on August 9, 1944, in Sacramento, California. His family had strong Texas roots. His mother, Glynn, was once a state diving champion and later became a teacher. His father, Henry, worked for the Department of the Interior, tracking dangerous animals. They weren't Hollywood people. They were tough, outdoorsy, and proud of it. Sam grew up in the Hollywood Park neighborhood, where his dad kept begonias in a backyard greenhouse. They were regulars at the state fair. Sam even sang in the church choir before he could fully understand the words. As a kid in the 1950s, Sam had the kind of childhood most boys only dreamed about. He'd ride his bike from William Land Park all the way to the Sacramento River, getting into harmless trouble, racing the sunset home. Thanks to his dad's job, he tagged along on trips deep into the Sierra Nevada. They'd fish in cold mountain streams and hike through remote trails in places like Wentworth Springs and the Rubicon River. These trips gave Sam a connection to the wild. It wasn't just fun, it shaped him. That connection later became the soul of the cowboys he'd play on screen. But everything changed when Sam turned 13. His dad got a new posting, and the family had to move to Portland, Oregon. Sam didn't want to go. Sacramento was his whole world. Still, he carried his love for the outdoors with him, even as he tried to adjust to a new place. It was around age 9 when Sam's life took another sharp turn. He'd been spending Saturday afternoons watching movies with his sister. Sci-fi, westerns, old serials. One day, he just said it out loud. He wanted to be an actor. His father didn't take it well. He thought acting was foolish, a pipe dream. He told Sam, "You've got a snowball's chance in hell." That comment stuck. For years, it created a quiet war between them. Sam didn't stop acting, though. He kept doing school plays. In high school, he played Big Jewel in Guys and Dolls at Clark College. A local newspaper praised his performance, saying he should go pro. That one sentence lit a fire in him. Maybe he didn't have a chance in hell, but he was going to try. Then came the tragedy. In 1962, just after Sam graduated high school, his father died of a heart attack. They never made peace. His dad never saw him succeed. That pain didn't fade. Sam said, "It kills me to talk about it," but it didn't break him. It pushed him. Right after the funeral, he dropped out of college. He didn't wander. He focused harder. His father's doubts turned into fuel. Every time someone told him no, he remembered that line about the snowball. In 1966, Sam joined the California Air National Guard. He became a loadmaster, responsible for balancing cargo in military planes. It was high-pressure work. He served 6 years. During the day, he handled aircraft logistics. At night, he went to acting classes. He'd work 12 hours and still show up to rehearse. That mix of discipline and hunger defined him. He never saw combat, and that haunted him. He later said he felt guilty. That guilt added depth to the military roles he would later play, especially in We Were Soldiers. By 1967, Sam had made it to Los Angeles. He had $100 and slept in his car. He faced 87 rejections in his first year. Casting agents didn't know what to do with a 6'2" guy who sounded like a cowboy preacher. He worked construction jobs for $1.25 an hour and showed up to auditions with dust still on his boots. His first film job was as an extra in The Way West for $50. Just one day on set, no lines. But in 1968, he got lucky. Director Leo Penn gave him 3 lines on a courtroom show called Judd for the Defense. 3 lines. That's all it took. The producers rewrote the scene to keep his voice in. His baritone, which once held him back, finally started opening doors. Years later, it would be insured for $1 million. Those early roles didn't make him rich. In 1968, he made just $3,800, around $33,000 today. But he was building a reputation. Directors started noticing his look, his voice, his presence. In The Way West, the director asked him to gain 15 pounds of muscle. So Sam got up every day at 5 a.m. and hit the weights. When he auditioned for Gunsmoke, he even lowered his voice by 12 hertz to land the role. Casting notes from that era called him walking testosterone and John Wayne's ghost. Even then, he still faced resistance. One producer once mocked his military service, calling it playing soldier. That nearly made him quit, but it also made him more determined. He swore he'd never play a soldier or cowboy without giving it everything he had, because for him, it wasn't just acting, it was personal. It's hard to believe, but Sam Elliott and his future wife, Katherine Ross, once acted in the same movie, without ever meeting. Back in 1969, Elliott played a nameless card player in the opening scene of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He just watched Robert Redford show off his shooting skills. Meanwhile, Ross had one of the lead roles. They were in the same production, maybe even near the same set, but their paths never crossed. They wouldn't actually meet until 1978, almost a full decade later, when they starred together in The Legacy, a spooky thriller filmed in London. Sam Elliott's early career wasn't what people might expect. He wasn't the mustachioed cowboy from the start. In fact, his first lead role was in a horror movie about frogs. It was called Frogs, released in 1972. Elliott played a wildlife photographer stranded on an island where nature turns against humans. The film opened on March 23rd in Florida and earned $458,392 from just 38 theaters in its first 17 days. Not bad for a low-budget eco-horror. Critics weren't kind. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 26%, Metacritic at 51%, but Elliott stood out. One review even joked that the frogs didn't do any of the killing, but still praised Elliott's calm, grounded performance. Strangely, the film never went away. It showed up on MeTV's Svengoolie as recently as 2022. For a movie about killer nature, it was a surprisingly strong start, but Elliott didn't jump into fame. He climbed slowly, one TV appearance at a time. In 1969, the same year he was an extra in Butch Cassidy, he landed a role on Judd for the Defense. Then came a string of appearances in Western shows like Lancer, where he played multiple characters. That led to his recurring role as Doug Robert in Mission Impossible during the 1970-71 season. In 1972, he popped up in Gunsmoke and also did beer ads as a cowboy for Falstaff. Slowly, people began to recognize him not as a star, but as someone who belonged on screen. His big TV breakthrough came in 1975 with I Will Fight No More Forever, a historical film about the Nez Perce tribe. That performance helped him land a lead role the next year in Once an Eagle, opposite Amy Irving and Melanie Griffith. Piece by piece, his image started to take shape. It wasn't just the acting. Elliott's look made him stand out, tall, lean, with a face that fit the wild frontier. He was 6 feet 2 inches, thin but strong, and already had the look of a classic cowboy. Casting agents took notice. Even before the thick mustache became his trademark, people knew he looked the part. His voice was another secret weapon, deep, slow, and smooth. It made even his smallest roles feel important. By the mid-1970s, Elliott wasn't just an actor. He was a type, a symbol of the old American West. Then came Lifeguard in 1976. This was the role that really introduced him to audiences. He played Rick Carlson, a 32-year-old beach lifeguard who didn't want to give up his simple life for a more serious job. The film cost only $900,000 to make, but grossed $5.4 million at the box office. That was a big win. What made the role even more personal was Elliott's real-life experience. His parents had been lifeguards, and so had he. That added a layer of truth to his performance. Paramount delayed the film's release by a year, and during that time, Elliott turned down all TV offers, waiting for Lifeguard to launch him into the movie world. Critics expected a beach party flick, but got something deeper. His calm, thoughtful character became a pattern he'd return to later in Roadhouse and The Big Lebowski. It was also around this time that fate brought Katherine Ross back into his life. In The Legacy, they played romantic leads. On-screen sparks turned into real-life romance. Ross was still married when they met, and Elliott was single at 34. He once joked that on the set of Butch Cassidy, he was just a shadow on the wall, and she was chasing the film's cinematographer. But now, things were different. After The Legacy wrap, Ross divorced her husband in 1979. 5 years later, she and Elliott married, and had a daughter, Cleo Rose. Unlike her 4 previous marriages, all of which ended in under 5 years, this one lasted. In fact, it's still going, more than 40 years later. As the 1980s began, Elliott fully embraced the Western world on TV. In 1979, he teamed up with Tom Selleck for The Sacketts, a miniseries based on a Louis L'Amour novel. Elliott played Tel Sackett, the oldest of 3 brothers looking for a new life after the Civil War. It was filmed across Colorado, Arizona, and California, and became a hit with fans of the genre. In 1982, Elliott and Selleck reunited for The Shadow Riders, another L'Amour adaptation. This time, Elliott played Dal Traven, a former Confederate soldier trying to save his kidnapped family. Ross also had a role, marking the first time she and Elliott worked together since falling in love. These westerns helped Elliott lean into the cowboy identity he'd once resisted. But with deep Texas roots, he even had a relative who fought at the Alamo. It seemed like a natural fit. Then came The Yellow Rose in 1983. Elliott played Chance McKenzie, the illegitimate son of a rich rancher. It was a bold role on a big stage. The show had strong ratings at first. 16.1 million viewers watched the premiere, but they soon dropped. By the end, it ranked 90th overall, and NBC pulled the plug after just 22 episodes. Still, it made a mark. The theme song, performed by Johnny Lee and Lane Brody, went to #1 on Billboard's country chart, and the show had enough of a following that NBC re-aired the whole series in 1990. For Elliott, the role was another reminder of how powerful his screen presence was. Even if the show didn't last, people remembered him. Sam Elliott wasn't supposed to audition for Mask. It was early 1985, and he was in Hawaii, fresh off his honeymoon with Katherine Ross. When the call came to test for the film, he said no. He wanted to enjoy the vacation, but Ross had other plans. She quietly called his agent behind his back and said, "I'll get him there." That one move changed everything. Elliott flew back, did the screen test, and got the role of Gar, a biker with a soft heart. He played the loyal boyfriend to Cher's character and a father figure to a disfigured teen. It wasn't a cowboy or a soldier. It was something deeper. Critics took notice. Mask proved Elliott could show warmth, pain, and love without losing his edge. It was the start of a new chapter in his career. That same chapter was opening in his personal life. On May 1st, 1984, Sam married Katherine Ross. It was her 5th marriage. It was his first. They had met back in 1969 on the set of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but it was brief. 9 years later, they met again while filming The Legacy, and this time it stuck. Just months after they married, their daughter Cleo was born, September 17th, 1984. So by the time Mask came out, Elliott was juggling diaper duty and movie roles. The man who had built his career on quiet toughness was learning what it meant to care for a family. Today, they've been married over 40 years. And when asked about the secret, Elliott said simply, "You work past the shit. You don't walk away from it." His career took another turn in the late 80s. From 1987 to 1989, Elliott jumped into action roles. First came Fatal Beauty, where he starred with Whoopi Goldberg. It was gritty, fast, and showed Elliott could handle crime dramas. Then, in 1988, he played a narcotics cop in Shakedown, a tense thriller with Peter Weller. Roger Ebert called Elliott strong, unsubtle, but convincing. Made for $6 million, the movie pulled in $10.1 million. Not a smash hit, but enough to keep momentum. Then came Roadhouse in 1989. It was loud, violent, and full of attitude. Patrick Swayze was the star, but Elliott held his ground. With a $15 million budget, it made $61.6 million worldwide. His long hair, deep voice, and "Don't Mess With Me" vibe turned him into a cult icon. In the early 90s, Elliott returned to TV, but this time with awards in sight. In 1991, he co-wrote and starred in Conager, a western based on a Louis L'Amour novel. It wasn't just another cowboy story. He worked on the script, produced the project, and acted alongside his wife. That personal investment paid off. He earned a Golden Globe nomination, and the film won a Bronze Wrangler Award for its authentic Western storytelling. 4 years later, in 1995, he played Wild Bill Hickok in Buffalo Girls. The cast was stacked. Angelica Houston, Melanie Griffith, and Elliott brought real weight to his role. The miniseries picked up 11 Emmy nominations, and Elliott earned his first nod for Outstanding Supporting Act. He had proven he could carry a story on the big screen and the small. small. Then, in 1998, he did something unexpected. He stepped into a movie where bowling alleys, rugs, and weird dreams ruled the story. The Big Lebowski wasn't about cowboys, but there was Elliott playing the stranger. He narrated the film with a calm, philosophical voice that framed the chaos around the dude. He was only on screen for a few minutes, but people remembered every word. Sometimes there's a man, well, he's the man for his time and place. That line became iconic. The Coen brothers knew exactly what they were doing. They gave Elliott a mythical edge. Part angel, part bartender, part ghost. Suddenly, younger audiences who had never seen Tombstone or Conaher knew exactly who he was. His voice became his biggest weapon in the 2000s. Deep, rich, and unmistakably American. Elliott started narrating campaigns that would reach millions. In 2008, he became the voice of Smokey Bear. Fitting, since they both share a birthday. August 9, 1944. He also took over the famous Beef, It's What's for Dinner ads, stepping in after Robert Mitchum. Coors hired him next. Then Ram Trucks. His voice was no longer just part of a character. It became the brand. Even kids recognized him from animated movies like Barnyard, where he played Ben the Cow and sang I Won't Back Down. He didn't need to be seen to be remembered. But he wasn't done riding into the sunset. In 1998, he returned to the Western genre with The High-Low Country. He played Jim Ed Love, a powerful rancher symbolizing the end of small-town cowboy life. His character wasn't evil, just part of a changing world. Then, in 1999, he went full hero again. You Know My Name told the real story of Bill Tillman, a legendary lawman. Elliott produced it and starred in it. He'd come full circle, back to dusty roads and moral fights, but with more weight, more soul, and more command than ever before. In 2000, Elliott left the West behind, at least for a moment. On April 9th, he appeared in Fail Safe, a live black-and-white TV drama set during the Cold War. With George Clooney, Harvey Keitel, and Walter Cronkite introducing the show, it was a big event. Elliott played Congressman Raskob. It was serious, tense, and very political. That same year, he showed up in The Contender, a movie about America's first female vice president nominee. It was sharp, intense, and full of backroom deals. Elliott played a supporting role that gave the story grit and realism. Two very different political stories. One powerful message. This guy could play more than cowboys. Sam Elliott was already a familiar face in westerns, but in 2003, something unexpected happened. He stepped into the world of superhero films playing General Thunderbolt Ross in Hulk. It wasn't just any role. He was a four-star general, a man torn between duty and family, staring down Bruce Banner with cold, controlled fury. Sam didn't even read the script. He said yes, because he wanted to work with Ang Lee. That's how much trust he had in the project. His voice, deep and rough like gravel, fit the part like a glove. There's a scene where he tells Bruce, "I'm the guy who had your father tossed away, and I'll do the same with you." That line wasn't just dialogue, it was a warning. 4 years later, in 2007, he returned to the comic book world again, this time in Ghost Rider. He played the caretaker, a mysterious cowboy figure guiding Nicolas Cage's character. Once again, Elliott brought calm, strength, and that voice. Audiences who had only seen him in dusty westerns were now seeing him ride through flaming hellscapes, and they loved it. Then came 2009. Elliott made a brief appearance in Up in the Air, starring George Clooney. He played a pilot named Maynard Finch. It was only one scene, but that scene landed in a movie that grossed $166.8 million and got 6 Oscar nominations. But that same year, Elliott had a misstep. Did you hear about the Morgans? Looked promising on paper. Hugh Grant, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Sam Elliott as a supporting cowboy husband. But the timing couldn't have been worse. It opened the same weekend as Avatar. It made just $6.6 million in its opening weekend and struggled to earn $85.2 million worldwide. The film had cost $58 million to make. American audiences ignored it. Only $29.5 million came from the US, which meant most of the money came from overseas. It was a clear flop. By 2015, Elliott was 71, but instead of slowing down, down, he delivered two major performances. First was I'll See You in My Dreams. He played Bill, a widower who takes Blythe Danner's character sailing and makes her feel young again. It was quiet, tender, and deeply human. The boat's name was So What, and that said everything about the character's attitude toward aging. Elliott showed audiences a side of him they hadn't seen before, romantic, vulnerable, and hopeful. Later that same year, Elliott lent his voice to a dinosaur. In Pixar's The Good Dinosaur, he played Butch, a T-Rex with the swagger of a cowboy. Kids didn't know him from Tombstone or Roadhouse, but they knew that voice. During interviews, Elliott said the movie reminded him of the old westerns. He talked about the landscape being as important as the characters. That's what made the role feel right. Even in animation, he found a way to bring the wild frontier back to life. Then came 2017, a role that felt like it was written just for him, because it was. The hero told the story of Lee Hayden, a once famous Western actor now doing voiceovers for barbecue sauce. He's dying of cancer and trying to fix his life before it's too late. Brett Haley, the director, said he wrote the film for Elliott. Everything about it felt personal. Lee was stuck in the shadow of his old fame, just like many assumed Sam might be. But Elliott was quick to say Lee was a man who ruined his own life. That wasn't Sam. Sam Elliott waited a long time to get his moment. In 2018, at 74 years old, he finally earned his first Oscar nomination. It came from his role in A Star is Born, where he played Bobby Maine, the older brother and manager of Bradley Cooper's character. His voice was deep and calm, just like always, but this time he showed a pain underneath. Critics loved how real he felt. Bradley Cooper didn't take that role lightly either. He trained for 4 months just to sound like Sam Elliott. That's how serious he was about making their bond believable. It worked. Every scene between them had weight, especially the one where they fought. It wasn't just about the fight. It was about years of silence, mistakes, and regret crashing all at once. Those small, quiet moments made the film unforgettable. Elliott didn't have many scenes, but he didn't need them. He won the National Board of Review Award and got nominated for nearly every major acting award that year. 3 years later, at 77, he returned to the kind of role people always imagined for him. He starred in 1883, a Western about a deadly journey across the American frontier. Sam played Shea Brennan, a man who had just lost his wife and daughter to smallpox. In the very first scene, he burned their bodies himself. He wanted to die too, but then he got one last mission: guide a group to Montana before the land was spoiled forever. You could see the pain in his eyes. His voice trembled just enough to break your heart. The role brought him back to the genre where his career began, but this time it was deeper. He was no longer just the cowboy. He was the soul of the story. Then came the night of February 26, 2023. Sam Elliott stood on stage holding a Screen Actors Guild Award. At 78 years old, after 55 years in Hollywood, he called it the most meaningful moment of his career. He beat out names like Steve Carell, Evan Peters, and Taron Egerton, but he didn't gloat. In fact, he said he wasn't even sure he deserved it after seeing the other performances. That's who Sam is, humble to the core. He didn't forget the cast either. "There's a piece of this for all of you," he told them. He became the second oldest man to ever win that award, proving once again that his best work didn't come when he was young. It came after a lifetime of experience. Even now, at 80, Sam Elliott isn't slowing down. In 2025, he joined the cast of Landman, another Taylor Sheridan series. He's acting alongside Billy Bob Thornton again, just like in 1883 and Tombstone. There's even talk he might return to the Roadhouse franchise in Amazon's upcoming sequel. He's still doing voice work too, from Family Guy to Ram truck commercials. He's the voice of Smokey Bear, and even did political ads in 2024. One line stood out: "It's time to be a man and vote for a woman." That's how relevant he still is, gravel-voiced, sharp, and always in the game. But not everything in Sam Elliott's life has been so smooth. On March 2nd, 2011, something terrifying happened at home. His daughter, Cleo Rose Elliott, attacked her mother, Katherine Ross. It started as a fight. Then Cleo told her mom, "I want to kill you." She kicked in a cabinet, cut the phone line with scissors, and hurted Ross 6 times in the arm. Ross was 71 at the time. She went to court alone and got a restraining order, saying her daughter had been violent since she was 12. Cleo wasn't allowed within 100 yards of her for weeks. Police had to be there if she needed anything from the house. Cleo had always wanted to be a musician. She played flute and guitar as a kid, but singing was her dream. The incident changed everything. After 2011, she mostly disappeared from the spotlight. Her music career stalled. The story followed her around, and she kept quiet for years. But now and then, she showed signs of healing. In June 2023, she posted a rare photo on Instagram, just a normal day out. It wasn't much, but it felt like a step toward peace. The biggest sign of healing came in 2018. Cleo showed up at the premiere of A Star is Born with her parents. They stood together, smiling. It said more than any press release ever could. On Christmas Day, 2022, she shared another photo, this time doing a puzzle with her mother. It was simple, quiet, and full of meaning. When Ross turned 83 in early 2024, people noticed the distance between them seemed gone. Whatever happened behind closed doors, they had found a way forward. Through all of this, Sam Elliott and Katherine Ross never split. They've been married since 1984, 41 years. That's rare for anyone, but almost unheard of in Hollywood. They first met filming The Legacy in London. Funny enough, Elliott had a part in Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid, one of Ross's earlier films, but they never met during that shoot. When they got married, it was her 5th marriage, but his first. Their daughter was born just 4 months later. Right after their wedding, they were on honeymoon in Hawaii when Elliott got a call. He had a chance to audition for Mask with Cher. Ross cut the honeymoon short so he could fly back. That role changed his life. She always supported him, even through the hard years. In a 2015 interview, Elliott explained their secret. You work past the shit. You don't walk away from it.